All right, everybody, welcome back and bear down. Excited to be with you again today. I'm going to be going over the state of the Bears and where we're at right now. Obviously, a lot of things happened over the weekend. I'm grateful I was able to go up and spend some time with some family. Hopefully, you guys had a great new year and a wonderful Christmas. I did. I loved every minute of it. Was away for a couple days, though, so I'm getting caught up here. And obviously, everybody knows what happened over the weekend. The Bears put a whooping on the Atlanta Falcons, 37-17, and I'm going to call this the statement game by Justin Fields. As you can see, I'm putting some highlights up here while we talk. But Justin Fields absolutely put to bed some of the doubters who have been making this stir, the civil war lately among fans. But I think we've talked a little bit about that this really isn't as big a deal as the media makes it sound like. A lot of articles and media proponents that make it seem like it's a bigger deal than it is. But if you've seen some of the posts that come out, there's really only about 15% of people that are polled. That was before the statement game that think that Justin Fields is even at risk of being traded or isn't our quarterback next year. And I'm going to put a couple clips here at the end of some Dan Orlovsky and Rex Ryan talking about Justin Fields and how everyone's coming around. The narrative is changing. But we're not going to focus too much on that today. We're not going to go too much into mock drafts or anything like that today. I'm going to talk about the big impact this weekend had and where we stand. Look at that dime, man. Right over Jesse Bates. That was beautiful. I mean, it's hard to drop those in like that. Justin Fields, if those who don't know and those who keep criticizing him, he is the very top of the league at tight window passes. It's charted out. He is the top. And it's amazing how people are starting to come around to Lamar Jackson, too, with their elusiveness, their unique ability to play, that they can throw tight windows to. It's like people are discounting just because they're such athletic freaks, because they can get out of binds, because they can run the ball just like this, because they have the wheels, because they can do that they can't be a good throwing quarterback. They're not paying attention. Lamar Jackson was great in college. Justin Fields was amazing in college. I mean, he carved up Trevor Lawrence in their bowl game at the end of his senior year, at the end of his final year at Ohio State. I mean, he's just a natural freaking athlete. So with that statement win, though, to me, that puts to bed any doubt that Justin Fields is our quarterback of the future. He is QB1. He's the man. And there shouldn't even be this big argument or talk about extending him or how much he's going to cost, because next year he's a little over $3 million is what we're on the hook for. He's not even expensive next year. And yes, I think we do absolutely exercise the fifth-year option. It's only going to be for a little over $20 million to make sure we have him for the next couple of years. What he's been lacking, and you're going to see here as Rex Ryan talks about, is weapons. And props to Ryan Poles for going out and getting Chase Claypool. I know that's controversial, me saying that, but think about where we were. The Bears haven't really drafted any wide receivers. If you want a top-tier wide receiver, you have to snag them in the first round, at latest in the second round. The Puka Nakuas and players like that, that doesn't happen very often. You cannot expect that to happen. That's not an expectation you can have. You take flyers on guys in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh rounds. That's what you're doing. You're not hitting a home run at the wide receiver position outside of the first and second round. That's not the exception, or the exception isn't to go later on and get that. That's what happens. It's first and second round. This year's draft class is deep. I'm going to talk about that in another video. So I have that all planned out. I'm going to go over that. That's something for later. But this year's draft class, there are 12 legit guys that could go in the first round in this year's draft. It's not going to happen. Teams still draft for need, but you're going to see teams fighting in the beginning of the second round for certain wide receivers that could have gone in the first round in other drafts. Usually you've got 6, top 7 wide receivers that could go in the first round. And I'm not saying every one of those 6 or 7 are going to be home runs, that they're going to be hits, but that's where we're projected after the combine and after seeing their collegiate careers. That's what could happen. So this year is a huge year for wide receivers. The Bears haven't drafted wide receivers. The last time we really drafted a wide receiver was Kevin White, and we really just got hosed on that one. He was injured from day one, and it just didn't pan out. And that's the only time we've really taken a wide receiver that high recently. It just hasn't happened. So this is the year, and you put DJ Moore, Cole Kmet with Justin Fields, and that elusiveness right there, combined with the youth of the rest of this team, and we've got a really amazing future. So I'm going to go over what happened with the big weekend. So first and foremost, the Bears locked up the number one overall pick for the second straight year. There's no way they don't get the number one pick. It's locked. It's done. So from the Carolina Panthers, we're going to have the number one overall pick in 2024, which is huge. The second thing that happened was Arizona beat the Eagles. And I mentioned this in a short that I did, but this is huge because now look at that standings after week 17. And I'm also going to pop up here my projected standings after next week. Here's where I think things are going to change. You see right now the Bears are in the 10th position in the draft. And here's what Bears fans should know that they probably don't know at this point. There's over an 80% chance that the Bears are going to end up with either the 10th or the 11th overall pick. That's where we're going to end up with our pick. There's not a whole lot that's going to sway that. If things go crazy and teams win that shouldn't win and we lose, which I don't think we will, where the best we can end up with is the number 8 overall pick. So there's no use in tanking. We keep building the momentum that we have right now. We go out and we beat the Packers in Lambeau because that's huge for us. And it would go 3-3 on the year in the division. Huge improvement, obviously, from last year, and beating the Packers and turning the narrative there. So that's the best we can do if things go south, is we end up with the 8th overall pick. If things go different and we beat the Packers, but also a bunch of weird things happen in teams that shouldn't lose do lose, and there's really not a lot that will or could or is going to happen there, the best we could pick is the 12th. So we're going to end up with the 10th or the 11th overall pick. And this is what I have as my projection after week 18. I have us picking 11th because we do beat the Packers. I have Minnesota losing to the Lions as well. The Lions are ticked off about what happened. And as a Bears fan, I'm going to say they should be. Now, we don't have them mic'd up on the field. I would really be interested in seeing that or hearing that or knowing what transpired. It's not what this video is about, but that was a huge boo-boo on the NFL's part. That's a black eye for sure. But I've got us picking 11th. But with this, with Arizona beating the Eagles, the second and the third pick are teams that are both hungry for a quarterback. As it sits right now, things could change. One of them could surprise us and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. because they love him so much. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Wide receivers haven't historically been going in the first or second overall pick. It just hasn't been happening. Historically, for the last couple of decades, it's been only quarterbacks and a couple of defensive ends. That's really it. So what this safety net gives us is we can trade down to 2 with Washington. We can trade down to 3 with New England, pick up some of that draft capital, and still be able to pick up Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, there's a ton of draft capital available. And with the Bears team where we are right now, I'm going to switch over to this. This is a side-by-side comparison. I'll get removed for a minute. You don't have to look at my mug. Side-by-side comparison of where we are and my projection after week 18. It's not going to differentiate much from that, obviously, unless the Packers make the playoffs. They won't be 12, but it's not going to change much from this right here. But with where the Bears are in their young team, where we're at right now, what we need is some high draft picks. We need first and second rounders. Now think about this. If we end up trading with Washington, there is going to be a huge demand with those quarterback spots at the top, people wanting to jump ahead of Washington and New England. So Washington and New England are also, I'm going to bring this back because it doesn't change the top of the draft. Washington and New England also are going to be in that bidding war because they are going to want the quarterback that they want. Washington will have the second overall pick. In the second round, they're going to have the 34th overall pick. And if it ends up where I'm saying it would end up, they'd have the 43rd overall pick, our pick. It lines up that we could trade Washington one spot down. We could have their second overall pick. We could have the 34th pick. And we'd get our pick back from Montez Sweat. All for them to trade up one spot. That's all draft capital this year. That would give us our pick. We'd still have the pick from the Panthers. Well, that was traded down to number 2. So we'd have number 2, number 11. We'd have number 34, and we'd have number 43. That's insane. That's huge draft capital. We could pick up a defensive end. We could pick up a safety. We could pick up, if we let Eddie Jackson go, which I think we're all assuming at this point, we could pick up a defensive end. We could pick up a lineman. We could pick up 2 wide receivers. There's so many possibilities with that. That's the strength of where the Bears are right now. Ryan Poles is a freaking genius. It's going down in history as one of the best trades ever, one of the best draft trades ever. But it leaves us in a really, really good position. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. That's where my mock draft is going to go, my next one that's coming up, because I think that would be superior. If we just traded down, we picked up Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 2, picked up Jared Verse or Latu Latu at 11, which one of those two should be there, that position. Might not, but those are the two guys right now that I think are the studs we absolutely should take on the other side of the line. Then we feel needs in the second round with another wide receiver with this deep class, and then an offensive tackle or safety with the other one. But anyways, I digress. This isn't mock draft. This is where the state of the Bears is right now. All right, so I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to play a couple clips here from Rex Ryan and Dan Orlovsky, who I think had great insights to end this thing off. But the state of the Bears is hugely improved after this last weekend. This was a huge weekend for the history of the Chicago Bears. And this is a team that will go into 2024 competitive, not only for the division, but I'm not being a homer of a fan here, sincerely competing in the playoffs for a deep run. So let me put this up for you.
7-17 is your final here. Fields, 20 of 32, 268, 2 total touchdowns. Does it with the arm, does it with the leg, and found DJ Moore 9 times.
Look at Khalil Herbert.
For $159, Khalil Herbert.
Wow.
Nice compliment in that backfield as well. It's a roster taking form, Mac. All right, so their last 7 games, something has changed. Whether Luke Getsy has finally started to design an offense for his multi-talented quarterback, or somebody said something in the locker room, it's been different. 5-2, giving up just 17 points per game, taking the ball away at a rate that almost tops the league, getting to the quarterback since the addition of Montez Sweat for that second round pick, excuse me, because I'm getting ahead of myself, because they are first overall and on the clock in this year's upcoming draft. All right, let's go right there, right now. Brian McFadden, have you seen enough to say Justin Fields is the quarterback and you do something else at 1, whether that's Marvin Harrison Jr., you move the pick, whatever that may be? Is Justin Fields the right quarterback for the Bears?
Yes, sir. You know, I've been saying the praise for Justin Fields weeks ago, before we saw this real consistent slate of play. But right now, no question, because I think I believe if you keep Justin Fields, you retain him, addressing other positions is the fastest way to improve the ball club. Because it's not like Justin Fields lacks talent. I think they need to find the common ground in regards to play calling to really allow him to excel as a quarterback, because he's a very, very talented, gifted guy. But it's almost like in the beginning of the season, they were trying to keep him in the shell. Let him out, let him play football like he did towards the last season in 2022, where he was playing some of his best football. I think they're starting to figure that out now. That's why we're seeing pretty good play. But if you talk about keeping Justin Fields, either trading that number 1 spot to get more picks or staying there, go get a guy like Marvin Harrison, and then with your next first-round pick, you know, you address the front on the defense or the offensive side, and you have money to play with as well. You have to like that, because DJ Moore is a proven number 1. But if you go get a guy like Maserati Marvin Harrison Jr., along with DJ Moore, along with Cole Kmet, when you look at Herbert and Deontay Foreman in the backfield. I mean, the offensive line, as you would know better than all of us being a Chicago Bears fan, Joe, the offensive line actually played better when they were healthy. They dealt with some injuries, of course. Their play wasn't as stout, but when they got healthy, they started to play pretty good football. Right? It's looking like he's going to be a guy you can build around moving forward as well. So that's what I would do. I would keep Justin Fields, and I think addressing other needs on the team is the best way to improve the roster, and yet and still you have a difference maker at the quarterback position.
And those needs are limited. I mean, look at this roster. Look at the talent on the defense. Look at the names you just mentioned. Cole Kmet, who we didn't see much of in this game. Also, statistically, the 4th best tight end in football right now. You can get better in other places, but they are not positions of great need. It's a roster that's ready to be a playoff roster. And if you take a rookie quarterback, you got to put off those hopes for 1 or 2 seasons.
And also, too, when it comes to sports, especially football, sometimes the unknown is scary because you don't know. At least with Justin Fields, he's shown the ability to be a difference maker in the league right now. You know you have a guy that, given the right structure of offensive game planning, play calling, he can do numbers. He can make people miss. He's a playmaker. You go draft one of these younger guys that we've never seen play in the NFL, you're hoping. You know what you're going to get from Justin Fields, and I think the best is yet to come when they find that sound offensive structure to surround him surround him with, not to mention adding more talent. I mean, think about this. Justin Fields is just talent alone. He's probably a top 5 talent. He's a top 5 talent at the quarterback position. Just talent alone. When you talk about talent, you talk about speed, athleticism, arm strength, the ability to do great things at one position. That's Justin Fields.
Yep.
Now we haven't really seen that talent serve to be a consistent passer because of injuries to the offensive line and also questionable play calling. But when you give him that sound structure, oh, he can do numbers. You saw what look at the guys he's making miss. We just talked about Lamar Jackson. He has Lamar Jackson-ish in his game. The difference between those two is that Lamar Jackson is more polished, and he has an offensive structure that fits what he does well.
Taking my one shot because I'm smiling through this thing. As problems go, they're good problems to have. Chicago, you are on the clock.
And we heard the fans. We want Fields. We want Fields. What should the Chicago Bears do, though?
We want Fields is dang right. We've been calling him. I've called him the future forever. And it was funny because before these last few games, I'm like, they're going to do the easy thing, which is take the quarterback and try to trade Justin Fields. But I'm telling you, do a little digging here, okay? This guy right here has one receiver he can throw to, DJ Moore. Sure. All right, he's thrown 8 touchdowns to Moore against 0 interceptions. Yeah. He's got a completion rate of 74% when he throws to DJ Moore. All others, no, forget it. It's 64%. All right, he averages 11 yards per pass attempt to DJ Moore against 6 to everybody else. All right. 8 touchdowns and 7 interceptions when he throws to anybody else. How about if he had Marvin Harrison Jr. with DJ Moore? I'm telling you, if that happens.
Rex, you don't need the first pick to get Marvin Harrison Jr. So are you saying trade back and acquire more picks?
Absolutely. Trade back, but make sure you get Marvin Harrison Jr. So if that means trade back to 2. Now you get Marvin Harrison Jr., okay? And I'm telling you, with the compensation that they can get, this team can go from being dead last in the division to winning the division.
So I think everyone knows where I stand on Justin Fields as a player. I thought he would play MVP caliber football this year.
It started to look like that down the end.
Correct. Let me give you guys the last 10 quarterbacks to go number 1, because I say this all the time. Number 1, if you're picked at quarterback, very rarely do you flip a franchise. These are the last, for everyone in Chicago, like we get the quarterback, we're going to be, okay, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, and Sam Bradford. How many of those guys who went number 1 have taken a bad organization, made it a good one? Joe? Cam did it for a year.
Cam took his team to the Super Bowl.
Right, so Cam did it for a year. Joe, Trevor Lawrence were still thinking maybe, but it hasn't happened. Andrew Luck wasn't even a bad organization. They were a bad team for a year. So we have more evidence that says, no, the quarterback pick number 1 doesn't flip it. Baltimore went and got Lamar because the team was really good, got Lamar. Kansas City had a good team, went and got Patrick. Buffalo had a good team, went and got Josh. I don't think it's as black and white as just take the quarterback.
Okay, so but here's my question. When we're looking at the Chicago Bears, at least with Justin Fields playing this way, this isn't a team that's number 1 overall pick bag, right? This is a team.
They're still in the playoff hunt.
Right, this is a team that's found some things defensively. They found some ways with Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, that Justin Fields is now making plays using his legs. So do you think you go forward with Justin Fields, or it's better to rebuild with the rest of the pieces around him with the number 1 pick?
My inclination is to build around him. 2 things. Number 1, just taking a quarterback to reset the financial thing is a bad decision. You take, who do you think is going to be a best player, right? Number 2, who is going to offer them that number 1 pick? If it's a team that's picking somewhere in the 20s or the 30s, you're unlikely. But if it's a team like a New England or a Washington who's got a very high first-round pick this year, then that changes the conversation.
Yeah, I'm sitting back looking at, I would keep Fields. They have a ton of money anyway.
And you don't have to pay him right now.
Right.
All right, my stance is clear. A lot of you have known my stance for a long time, and we're ahead of the curve. I want to know if any of you have started to change your mind. After watching stuff like that, after seeing how Justin Fields is coming around, after seeing the progress he's making and making it obvious to everyone that he's at least worth next year, is your opinion changing on Justin Fields? Is your opinion changing on the Bears? Because just like they just said, this isn't something where Justin Fields walked into a team that was ready for him to be a franchise quarterback. He was highly regarded in his draft class. He was right up there with Trevor Lawrence. A lot of people don't realize that. It wasn't Trevor Lawrence and then this giant gap. It was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. It was just like that in that draft class. But the Bears were really in shambles after Ryan Pace. Ryan Poles has flipped this thing around. We have young talent. We have great talent. We have strong players at different positions that are signed for long term. This is a good team. I want to know if your opinion is changing. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know where you stand on this. If you still think we should pick a quarterback with that first pick, or where things are trending for you. Are things changing in your mind, or are things really stuck with the way they were? Because it sounds like more and more the national media is changing, the narrative is changing, and you're going to start seeing as the season ends, as draft time starts coming around, you're going to see teams like Washington and New England putting stuff out about Caleb Williams like, oh, he's trash, he's bad work ethic. That's what they do. The rumor mill starts, and it doesn't mean it's true. They're trying to devalue things. They're trying to make things change. But the Bears' position with that number 1 pick in this year's class is going to be valuable. There's huge value in it. So let me know your thoughts. I would love to know what you think. Really appreciate you tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Please like this video to help it get some spread. And I appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to put more and more stuff out. And especially the next thing I have is about the wide receiver class coming up. Really excited about that one. Some deep dive I've done into it like some other videos that I've done. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, bear down.